Hi, this is Cameron Uri. I have an amazing, one of the most amazing people that I ever really met in my life, and I'm not joking really. It's just like a wealth of information, wealth of God's heart, and I had to capture what he had and what he has to say for the Middle East and also for America. And being from Middle East, being from a Muslim background, is such an honor to meet someone like him that understand the misunderstanding that is going on all around the world between Christians and between Muslims. You really understand the misunderstanding.
The truth is, Islam, much of the dogma, and some dogmas in Christianity were concocted by humans over time, drawing their interpretation of the Bible, and this has been influenced in history. And one of the greatest, most profound examples is the crucifixion. Is this?
Yes, that's.
You want to talk about this?
Please.
Let's take a sip of tea first, because this is a very difficult subject matter. And I'm going to get back to history in the crucifixion in a minute.
Because as you know, I grew up in Iran, and automatically I was Muslim, and I believed in what I heard.
What did you hear?
And that Jesus never was crucified.
Who said so?
He never died. We go to school and we had religious course. We call it
Right.
dini, and then we go to mosque and you hear here and there, and you just say he never was crucified. But the Christian, they kind of like said he was crucified. That's the big difference between us and them. And then they have three gods. We have one God, and they said God came down and married and had a child.
Okay, the latter two issues, the Trinity, we've dealt with. If you're listeners, if you want to hear about those, go to the other programs.
Yes, we did other program. But this one
we have not dealt with.
No.
Okay, let me tell you, if I may, share it in a story.
Yes, please.
A scholar from the North Africa called me, lived in America, Islamic scholar. He said, Mark, would you please take me to see Mel Gibson, the famous American actor, who about 12 years ago created a movie called The Passion of the Christ. I said, why do you want me to take you? Or just go yourself. No, I don't want, I'd be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Well, then ask someone else. He goes, no, you take me. I said, why? So I just kind of trust that you won't try to use it to convert me to Christianity. I said, well, all right, I'll take you. And then a few days later, we're going to go the next week, I get a call from a Brahmin Hindu from India who's visiting America. He says, Mark, would you please take me to see The Passion? I said, what? What are these people calling me? I said, why don't you just go? He said, no, I feel more comfortable with you. I said, I tell you, you're going to have to go with the Muslim, because I'm not going to go see it twice. Because I actually had seen it in its original form before they had some of the music and even some of the green screens with Mel Gibson. He brought about 32 of us together to analyze his movie before it was even finished, to see it was anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, and what we thought of it. So I've seen the movie in its rough version, and it was so penetrating. I really wasn't eager to see it even one more time. But regardless, here we are, sitting in a movie theater, Brahmin Hindu to the right, and this Muslim scholar to the left. So afterwards, we're walking out, I don't say anything. I just let the Holy Spirit lead. And the scholar says, well, can we go across the street to the Starbucks and have a cup of coffee? I said, sure, let's go. And the Brahmin doesn't care. So we're sitting in Starbucks drinking chai. Of course, we all drink. All three of us like tea better than coffee. So no offense to coffee drinkers.
Yeah. No, in Iran, they love tea.
I know.
Yes.
خیلی خوب. Chai Ali, wonderful.
Ali, خیلی خوب.
So we're sitting talking, and he looked at me and said, Mark, you weren't crying at the end of the movie, because Jesus, at the end of the movie, was crucified and battered and beaten. It was just so horrible. It was just heart-wrenching. And he said, I was weeping. I said, I could see you next to me weeping. He said, why didn't you weep? I said, I've already seen it. I saw it earlier. I said, but why were you weeping? Because you don't believe Jesus was crucified. It's like I asked you. He said, that's true. I said, why do you believe that? He says, the Quran says so. I said, does it? You know, I've been a talib, a student of the Quran now for years. You're one of my mentors. One of my mentors. Yes. I said, you're referring to Surah 4:157. He goes, yes, how did you know? Because I've read it. I said, now there are 6,666 ayahs, verses, ayah is Arabic for verses, in the Quran. One, wahad, that's Arabic for one, deals with the crucifixion of Jesus. Is that correct? He goes, yes. So let's read together by memory, because you've memorized the Quran, yes? Let's read it together. The verse says, they said in boast, we killed the Messiah, the son of Mary. But they killed him not, nor did they crucify him, comma, for sure they killed him not, comma. Let's stop there. And he said, there you have it. You quoted it perfectly in English.
It's very clear.
Very clear. Every Muslim in the world knows that. I said, but I don't think it's correct. If I with all due humility and respect, who are they referring to in that chapter? You read Surah 4:157, 157 verses later. But that chapter, what is the they? Who are they referring to? And you can tell he's closing his eyes, memorizing the Quran. Oh, the Jews. It was the Jews said in boast, they killed the Messiah. But the Jews killed him not, nor did the Jews crucify him. For sure not. You 20 minutes ago, I'm telling this Muslim, and the Hindus listening on, you know, he doesn't care. He's just having a good time with his tea and listening. You just saw 20 minutes ago who killed Jesus? Who put him to death?
Roman.
He said the Romans. I said, exactly. Now, most Christians think that's a horrible verse. I like the verse, and Christians would love it. Why? Because for centuries after the death of Jesus, certain Jewish leaders brag, oh, we got rid of that so-called Messiah of Nazareth. We got rid of him. So what the Quran is doing is correcting a historical inaccuracy that the Jews did not murder Jesus. They conspired to kill him, yes. They insisted that Pontius Pilate get rid of him. But it was the Romans who killed you. The Jews could not crucify anyone. It was illegal. They would, if they crucified anyone, they would be crucified for doing it.
I remember, I believe, hearing you saying there is another verse in Quran that talks about Jesus dying. Is that?
Oh, yes.
See, because now,
yes.
because some of us as a Christian would argue and say, yes, maybe they refer to Roman, but Quran didn't say Jesus died. But I remember you. If you
this is yes. This is very interesting because
that's the other half of the coin.
The other half of the verse too.
Oh,
this is the other. Okay, remember I said there's a comma after for sure the Jews killed him, not comma. It's not the end of the verse.
Please go on.
The end of the verse said in English. A lot of the English translations say it wasn't him. It was the substitute that was crucified on the cross. It wasn't Jesus. Someone took his place. So, remember, we're talking to a scholar in Islam, right? You know, he isn't. I'm his student, not his teacher. It says, but walakum shubeh lahum. That is the Arabic, which some interpret as it wasn't him, it was someone else. And I told him, I said, you know, I'm reading Yusuf Ali's English translation. He's a famous Quran translator. And he also has commentary, footnotes. And his footnote even suggests that there could be multiple interpretations for this walakum shubeh lahum, meaning it was someone else. It could mean it didn't look like him anymore because he was beaten so badly. Or it could mean it was him, but he didn't have the same power of life-giving force because he was died. So he didn't have the life-giving force to raise the dead and to heal the sick and such. Or it could mean, like the translators have suggested, it wasn't him. It was Judas or someone else. So how do we determine, if this is ambiguous, how do we determine the correct translation. So this Muslim scholar looks down, we have to go to other verses in the Quran. Now to your question, all right?
Yes.
You see where I want to get there.
Yeah.
So I said, let's go to the other verse in the Quran. Now you tell me, I've studied this, and you tell me why I'm wrong, because you're my teacher. You're my sheikh, I call him, right? So it says in the Quran twice, Jesus speaking first person about the day of my birth, the day of my death,
He said it.
and yes, and the twice, and the day my soul comes back to me, I'm resurrected from the dead.
It's all in the Quran.
Absolutely, twice. And he responded, oh, but the word day of my death. I said, the word for death in Arabic is mutawafika. That comes from mutu, which is an Aramaic word. Remember, the Quran was the first consolidated major piece of work written ever in Arabic, They had little pieces, but that was a big, and a lot of it is borrowed from Aramaic.
Yes.
Like some of your Farsi brings a little Arabic. And
Mot, still, we say mot.
You do?
Yeah, mot.
that means to kill
Yes.
death. It's not like sleep or anything else.
No, it's
So all these
dead,
other
dead.
arguments are etymologically, in other words, in the study of the word, is not correct. So first of all, I said, so therefore, he died, and when? And when did he get resurrected? He said, well, that's resurrection day. I said, Yom, day, Kiyama is the day of resurrection. This verse says Yom, day, Uba'athu, which was more of a resurrection of the soul. It could mean the same, but it's interesting, it's a different use of resurrection. And he goes, well, that's true. And I said, moreover, Allah himself in the Quran says, oh, Isa, Ibn Maryam, oh, Isa, son of Mary, I'm going to allow you to be killed and then take you up. Now, your listeners may say, where is that in the Quran? Well, as I say, we will give you the entire list of all these verses in the Quran we've been discussing through all of your shows, and they can have it and look it up themselves. And of course, he looked at me and said, you know, it does say that. I said, now, in conclusion, Sheikh, we have one verse out of 6,666 that at best is ambiguous. And we have other verses clearly saying that Jesus would die. Moreover, and lastly, I'm talking to him now, not to you, not to you, I'm talking to the Sheikh. In the Quran, it says all flesh will see death. Was Jesus flesh? Yes. It didn't say except for Isa. So is the Quran wrong? No. He says absolutely not. I said, so Jesus must have died. And the confusion with many Muslims is, well, if he was killed, how did he ascend back up to heaven if he was dead? I said, the Quran says his soul came back to his body, and then this perhaps new body that saw death, like all flesh will see death, this new body could ascend to heaven. Do you think a physical body could ascend up to Allah in heaven and survive? Most Muslims say no. That's because that new resurrected body by the Holy Spirit, with this Holy Spirit, gave him, you know, he was already had all these amazing miraculous signs and wonders. So all these verses together, and he's looking, he starts tearing up. So I hadn't thought of any of these things. Well, you're the scholar. You put these things together. Now, why do you suppose, I asked him, this is back to your question. Why is Islam and Christianity seen to be so different, but the Quran and the Bible seem more similar? Well, humans, I believe, would interpret things that benefits their political agendas.
Of course.
So I said, could it be that 200 years of white European crusades, think of this, 2 centuries of pillaging, murdering, raping, and killing Muslims and Jews, and tens of thousands of Christians who spoke Aramaic, and those ignorant Europeans said, well, they weren't speaking Greek, they weren't speaking Latin, and they claimed to be Christians, but they saw their Bible was an Aramaic Bible, and they were speaking Aramaic. They killed them all, 55,000 men and children. That's how crazy the Crusaders were. They were on killing persons. Now, what did Crusaders look like, their uniform? They had helmets, and what was on the top of the helmet? A cross. What was on their chest? A cross. What was on the sides of their horses, draped in linens? A cross. What was the killing instrument? The swords were
Sword looked like cross.
a cross. So do you think for 1 minute that if the Canadians, you know, their symbol is the maple leaf, right? That's the symbol of Canada. If for 200 years the Canadians overpowered America, the United States, and cut throats of people with killing instruments shaped like a maple leaf, and then someone says, oh, Jesus died from being cut by a maple leaf, they're going to say, hey, we're not going to promote the maple leaf.
Yes.
So the cross has been demoted, almost understandably, because of the horrors and atrocities
The Christian
committed by crosses and Christians, but not by Jesus.
not by Christ.
No, not
And
by
that
the
should
Christ.
not affect the truth. The truth should stand,
But
regardless
the
of
truth
what
has
we
been
did.
hidden.
Yes.
And now we are here on your show uncovering the truth.
Inside Quran, and it shows. You're
Yes.
just telling them, hey, go read this.
Read it yourself. And we'll give you the verses if you ask for them.
Wow.
So I'm sitting with a scholar. He's not a young guy. He's probably in his early 60s. Tell him I just hadn't really put all these things together. I said, I can understand why the cross has been hidden
Yeah.
and why one ambiguous verse, one verse in the Quran, one ambiguous verse, there's a staunch dogma that could cause someone's death if they promote that Jesus was crucified. Over what? One ambiguous verse that does not hold up against the other verses.
Exactly.
Are there any other verses that said he didn't die? No. There are only verses that said he did.